Thailand's public debt is hitting 10 trillion baht, the largest debt ever for this country as of February this year. Is expected to increase to 62% of GDP this year. Growing questions have been raised about the government's ability to control the debt and the timing of economic growth in this country. Our guest today is a person who has monitored the public debt situation, and she will tell us more how to manage it. Please welcome คุณ Patricia มงคลวณิช Director General of Public Debt Management Office สวัสดีครับ
สวัสดีค่ะคุณยอด Hello.
Welcome to Voice of the Nation. People think about that our country is in hot seat now. Maybe we facing crisis, financial crisis. But as you taking care of this and you see the whole picture, can you tell us about the current situation?
Yes, of course. I can't deny that our public debt right now is the highest. I can't deny that because as time goes by, we accumulated debt. But when we are talking about public debt, normally we would compare not the amount, but the percentage to GDP. Right now, our public debt to GDP right now is about 61%. As of June, I would say. And this year, Kun Yot mentioned that it is expected to be about 62, but as year goes by, right now we recalculated. We think that at the end of this fiscal year, which is ending of September, we forecast that our public debt to GDP would be about 61.3. So not highly significant from current situation. And yes, I can't deny that these past 2 years that COVID has hit Thailand as well as other countries. Public debt is the major money that help alleviate the situation in Thailand and in most of the countries. You can see that the world public debt rose significantly during the past 2 years. Right now, it's almost reached 100% of GDP. Okay, where Thailand stands right now. Even though our public debt rose from about 41% during the pre-COVID time, and right now it's about 61%, which jumped nearly 20%, which is a lot. But our GDP is also has grown a lot, and the amount we have emergency decree of 1.5 trillion borrowing that in order to spend to help in medical expenses, in pay out to those who are affected, and to help stimulate the economy. So the amount of the public debt of 10 trillion right now, I have to classify about 81% came from the direct government borrowing. About 6.7% was the outstanding from the FIDF, which is the debt that we had during the Tom Yam Goong 20 years ago. We still have
haunting us.
Yes, we still have about 600 billion outstanding on that. And about nearly 10% is a SOE or state enterprise debt. And about 2.4% is a debt from where the government has guaranteed some of the SOEs. Okay, so out of this portfolio, not all is affected by not all is responsible by the tax payment or the expenditure of the government. The budget bill, it covers only the amount that the government is borrowing. So the FIDF, the Bank of the amount of FIDF, the FIDF is paying it. SOEs, most of the SOEs are paying by their revenues. So what is affected to the that we have to bear is about 8.3 trillion, which is covered by the budget. Okay, in general term, this is the definition under the public debt law. But in order to compare with internationally other countries, we would use the definition under the IMF, which covers only the debt of the government, debt of the municipalities, and the debt from the Social Security Office. If we take that definition, public debt of Thailand would account for only 55%, not 60%. And where we stand with other countries, let's say I wouldn't talk about the highest country that has a public debt, which is Japan, which always over 200% of GDP. Okay, that's the highest one. And let's compare to most of our peering countries. Let's say Malaysia. Malaysia right now is about 70%. Okay, so higher than Thailand. Singapore is about 130. So it depends. I can confirm that our public debt is not in hot seat, as Kunrat mentioned. Ability to pay, we always allocate the right amount of repayment and also the interest. Interest is always fully covered each year. And we normally receive about 3% of the budget to repay our principal, which is the way Public Debt Management Office does it. Means what every time, because the amount is so huge, we cannot repay the whole amount. So we would repay part of it, and the rest we would refinance it. So and also currency-wise, our public debt is mainly domestic borrowing. So more than 98% is a Baht borrowing. So we don't have any impact on our foreign borrowing that much because it's less than 2%, and most of the 2% that's already hedged. So this is I would say the overview that I have to confirm that our public debt is way away, long way from the hot seats, and then we are not near or reaching at the stage of emergency crisis or public debt crisis.
The bankruptcy.
Oh, that's far away.
I see. So in general, people will look at like one single number, and they do not see the whole picture and details like you clarified for us. So for the general public, when they learn about public debt, so we have to differentiate and the sources of the debt as well. So in general, the public debt for Thailand can be classified in how many categories? Can you summarize from that? 3 categories or two categories?
Public debt. I would say categorized by who's the borrowers. Okay. As I mentioned, the borrower can be government. It covers government borrowing, SOE government, SOE borrowings. Because Thai law, public debt law in Thailand, whatever that the Ministry of Finance holds more in shares, holds more or directly or indirectly more than 50%, that is account for SOE under the public debt law. So let's say one of the company, SOE, for example, PTT, which is one of the 500 Forbes company and also a listed company. Whatever they are borrowing is counted as a public debt as well, because Ministry of Finance
the majority share
directly or indirectly.
Right.
Yes, more than 50%. So I would classify that is the first way of classify the public debt. The second one is currency, foreign currency and Thai baht currency. As I mentioned, we have mostly a Thai currency. And what do we borrow for? I have to mention that. First is for the budget deficits. Each year, the government has revenue, and the government has a forecasted expenditures. And what is lacking, it will be going through the budget deficit borrowing. So that's the main borrowing that we do every year. Secondly, we have infrastructure borrowing. A lot of infrastructure of the SOE is done through borrowing. Thirdly, borrowing of the government agencies as well. These we normally borrow through international organizations, for example, JICA or ADB, in order to build infrastructure in Thailand. And lastly is an emergency decree, which always came out when we are in crisis that we do not have enough money. First is the FIDF in during the Tom Yam Goong. Secondly is the hamburgers crisis in 1950 in 80s, I guess, in the 90s during the Tom Yam Goong hamburger crisis. All those time, PDLMO has to step in and issue the emergency decree to allow Ministry of Finance to borrow money to help alleviate the crisis within the country, as well as the last time, which is the COVID, that we borrowed the highest amount of 1.5 trillion.
Let me go back to in case of like PTT is a good example, because PTT is a very outstanding corporate of Thailand, and when they record the debt, also when the like Fitch ratings or other credit rating agencies, they consider the ability of like companies like PTT to pay as well, to consider the ability of the whole country to pay the debt.
No, when the credit rating they do the analysis, they would not use the definition as the law, the Thai law. They would disregard the SOEs, and they would look into the physical strength of the government only. And as you may heard of the news that even during the COVID time, we didn't have any downgrades at all. They still foresee that we are having a very good physical strength. So Thailand have a very good and prudent debt management scheme. So I can assure you that. If I'm saying that, somebody would say, "Oh, the public debt has to say that it's not scary." So listen to the third party or the credit rating agency. They foresee that we can manage this quite
Given
well.
the rating agency, so there, other than Fitch ratings and other agencies, also quite credible, and we should rely on their ratings, and they have influential for us to tell our stability and the outlook. In addition to the Fitch ratings, we have.
Yes, that normally there would be Fitch, S&Ps, Moody's, and R&I. R&I is Japanese firm, Japanese house credit rating firm. So the most famous one would be S&P, Fitch, and Moody's.
And S&P rating is still we are still standing good in the rating.
Yes, all of the credit ratings agency gave us of the triple B plus, so it has remained the same. We nearly made it. I believe that we nearly made it to A during the pre-COVID, but COVID hit us, and then we had to borrow a lot. That's why we were not we did not succeed in reaching A, but we were triple B plus at that time with positive outlook, and then they changed it to a stable outlook. But in terms of credit rating, we remain the same.
I see. So do you think that our like external finance is strong as well, from our reserve to pay back compared to other countries?
Yes, our reserve can last about 7 months. 7.5 months without having any income at all. Comparing to the same credit rating countries, for example, triple B plus, those countries would have about 5 months. So our reserve is
Oh, I
super
see. I
strong.
see. This one sometimes is not reported in the news, so we can see only one sided of the picture. And now with the I talked to some exporters. Many association found that we are exporting more and it's quite strong, and the tourism is getting back. So combined with these two, we add the strength to our ability to have more revenue. And should there be any other factors?
I think what we need the most is
Mhm,
the more revenue. The revenue
mhm,
side needs to be increased. So if we have more revenue, I think the we can allot amount to repay the principal. So that way we can decrease our principal quite significantly. But as Kun Yot may know that we are
mhm,
starting to recover and just hope that there is nothing bad coming up out again. Right now, yesterday you may know that there's an increase of
mhm,
25 bips
mhm,
of interest rate. So let's see whether how that impacts um, uh, people and businesses in Thailand as well. I hope that it wouldn't impact much, and they are doing well with their revenue, so they
mhm.
can pay tax. So once the tax is on track and we have more revenues, I think we can handle the repayment of the uh, principal
Oh,
outstanding quite well.
and recently they got a news report about EU offering us green bond. Do we need to have that, or we just like we don't need to have that bonds at all? Even though the offer is quite look very interesting. What do you think?
Okay, I would say that right now, green bond or sustainability bond are something very, very famous. I think very in trend right now. Even in Thailand, even the PDMO, we also issue a sustainability bond. Okay, we do not have sovereign fund
Mhm,
to
mhm,
buy such bond. Normally, many countries they have a
mhm,
sovereign wealth fund that the government can invest
mhm,
in bonds, but our country doesn't have that. I have spoken to the representative of the EU as well, and they was selling these products, which I like it very much personally. So I convey all the message to SSO, which is a Social Security Office, and the government pension funds that they are keen to invest in those products. So I convey the message, and I believe many banks may interest in investing in those products as well. But let me say in terms of Thailand, because of during the past 2 years, we have launched a new product which called sustainability bonds.
mhm,
80% goes to social spendings under the COVID. 20% is for green bond for the mass transit, the orange line.
mhm,
It's a 15-year tenor, and we have now about the outstanding of about 6 billion US dollars outstanding,
mhm,
which is quite high.
mhm,
Um, we have a lot of investors from abroad and as well as domestically. And our sustainability bond is listed on the Luxembourg Stock
mhm,
Exchange and certified by many organizations internationally.
mhm,
So our product is
mhm.
the first in ASEAN, I would have to say,
Oh, I see.
and very popular.
I
Yeah.
see.
So green bond, sustainability bond, and now the newest one is sustainability linked bond. It's very famous. So you will see it, and a lot of company would want to invest in those bonds in their portfolio.
Mhm.
But for Thailand, we do not. We as a country do not invest in those things because we don't have a fund.
Oh, I see. So please educate me. For like other government agencies, if they are interested in this kind of bonds, they will come to consult your office, or they can have their own ability. They have their own way to invest by themselves.
You mean the investment side or
The
issuance side?
investment side.
So
Right.
investment side, it's anybody can invest in anything. We don't touch any upon investing scheme or policies of anybody. They have their own IC, which is an investment committee of each organization. But for issuance, a lot of SOE needs to issue bonds. And several SOE, for example, National Housing Agency, they issue social bonds. Tokosor Bank of Agriculture, they issue green
I
bond.
see.
And also in this type of issuance, they would have to inform public debt office. And a lot of time, many times that we help facilitating them as well in issuing because they don't have much experiences.
Okay. How about let's move to the prospect of our GDP growth, and also if we are running like this and hopefully no more war in the in Asia. Just maybe it's just like the something that happening and come and go. Do you think that our ability to grow to like for the GDP growth will be just like other forecast, or you think that it should be getting bigger?
I wouldn't challenge the experts because I'm not the expert on that. But I think this year, I think Thailand could do 3+,
Mm.
3+, whatever. I hope that in the future can be 4+. And then once we can open our country, we are still a destination of tourism. But I believe that in order to make Thailand a leapfrog jump in GDP growth, we have to restructure our economy as well, which I believe NESDC are taking care of that. And under the National Strategic Plan, 13th strategic plan, there are a lot of things that to be done in order to change our economic structure.
I see. And from your background, you from the revenue department. When you move to this office, it's quite beneficial from the background that helping this kind of work.
I would say it's very interesting because tax, when I work in tax,
You're collecting tax,
it's
and now it's like you manage the
you're
debt.
collecting tax. Yeah, so I'm on the different side of the
Right.
balance sheet, which it's very interesting. At that time, I would say that when I worked for the revenue department, our KPI was always to beat the forecast. For example, we can collect 10% of more than the KPI, the forecast. That would be a success for the revenue department. But in terms of public debt office, this is a very bad indication because exactly because if they forecast that they will put like 100 baht, and we know that we have to borrow 50 baht in order to get a 150, and suddenly they said no, we're gonna get 125 baht. So it means that we have to borrow less too, right? We have to borrow only 25 baht. But the borrowing plan has been done already, because when they are beating the collection, it would be at the end of the fiscal year, and the borrowing has been done throughout the year at the amount of 50 baht. So now the cost is already happened, started the cost, because borrowing has a cost. So I think a lot of so this gives me a really big picture about I now understand how the whole system works.
Did it take long for you to understand in this detail?
No. I understand during the first year, and I always mention that this has to be well coordinated and then well planned. But sometimes we didn't know that the amount of tax collection would come this high at the end of the year. for example, this year, tax collection exceeds the amount because of the very high price of the oil. That makes a VAT importation collection skyrocket. So it just happened recently. So that's a windfall. Whereas I already borrowed. What to be done? Yeah, I cannot pay back right away because I don't have the ability to pay back right away. Otherwise, I would say okay. But what we are doing is that we plan to borrow quarterly, and we borrow as only a minimum that we require.
I see. So very, very interesting. So let me ask you your management style. I'm curious about when women rise to the higher ranking and top level, even though we don't have a lot in the board of directors of many companies, and I hope it's going to be more. What is your management style? You working on this, that, and you have working on the figures and numbers, putting you to be a serious person?
I'm a person who work hard but play harder. I work hard, but I would say along the way, I'm kind of a workaholic person.
Oh.
I work really, really hard. But one day I realized that my life is miserable, and definitely my subordinate lives are also very. So now I tend to work balance quite well. During I wouldn't, if there is nothing if there is no emergency, I wouldn't reach out to my subordinates outside office hour.
I see. I
Yeah, because
this is quite sensitive to many people as well. I used to interview one guy. He's a owner of the company, and I asked him that, do you usually ask your staff, like your manager and those, during their vacation or Saturday and Sunday? And he said he will, because they are managers. I can ask them to do anything and anytime. so for this one that you mentioned about you realize that your subordinates, your staff need the time as well. When did you fully realize that you have to make the balance, because you seem tough and workaholic, like you just said?
I used to be a very bad boss. I would say that.
Can I quote that?
Sure. I used to.
I will not drop that.
Okay.
Used to. Okay.
I used to be the director of the electronic tax payment bureau at the revenue department, which handles the online payment of all the citizens. I would wake up at 2:00 in the morning and log in, whether the system works well or not.
Were you having insomnia then? No.
Yeah, I was very happy. Yeah, not really insomnia. Not as insomnia, but I was concerned. I would say that's why I was awake. So I would log in, and if there is a problem, I would hit the problem right away.
Yourself, if you can manage it, you will do it by yourself.
No, I cannot, because it's a system. It's a system. I can't. But I would tell the responsible person that, hey, this is taxpayer cannot log in right now. What's the problem? At 2:00 in the morning, I said. At that time, I didn't realize that, but because I realized that we have to run 24 hours, and I believe that we have accountability that to make a service. But I should have waited a bit longer in order to tell my staff not to fix it at 2:00. So, and I am a mother of two. So when I realized that, like, we have to juggle life at work, life at home, the kids, and then I realized that, okay, how can I have to start with myself. So I balance life of myself, and then when I know how to handle it, I said I would reach out to my subordinate only during the office hour. Yes, Yes, but I do take all the works from all my bosses. They contact me all day long or at any hour. I take that. I take the orders, but what I can do by myself, I did by
Oh, I
myself. But
see.
if I really need information and it's emergency and it's urgent, I would reach out. But other than that, I wouldn't bother the vacations or holidays or things
I
like that.
see.
That's my style. But I am a fast person, so I expect a fast return from my
Mm,
subordinate. What I order, I expect
mhm.
fast and correct and accurate
I
answer.
see.
Not fast, but not good. No, no, I don't take that.
Mhm.
Yeah. And in women in as a
Mhm.
leader, we can see a lot of
Mhm.
women rising up to the
Mhm.
top. And I have, being woman myself, I have to respect them because, as I mentioned, women, we have to handle of, we have to handle husbands, we have to handle kids, we have to handle household, we have to handle the
Mhm.
boss, we have to handle all the subordinates. So I think being a woman at the top is quite
Mhm.
challenging, but Thailand is very open for
Mhm.
women management and women leadership, which is I appreciate very
Mhm.
much.
Mhm. Okay, ครับ I really appreciate our interview today and learn many things from you, and also you tell me you find the right balance now where you look happy of the work and
I
life.
am. I cook for my kids. I exercise. I do everything.
Okay, I hope we have more interview on this side of your life as well, in other than the work and very
Sure,
serious
sure.
work to protect the country from from the debt that we cannot manage. But we can tell from the facts and figures from Kun Patricia that Thailand is still quite strong and stable, and we are going to the prosperity, and also look at the export and tourism, and we gonna grow together from now, even though hopefully there's no other unexpected situation hitting us like the COVID again. Thanks a lot คุณ Patricia มงคลวณิช Director General Public Debt Management Office ขอบคุณมากๆครับครับครับ
Thank
ส
you
วัสดี
ค่ะ
ค
ขอบ
รั
คุณ
บ
ค่ะคุณยอดค่ะ
And that's the end of Voice of the Nation today. I'm Vithya Sangarun. Join our website nationthailand.com for more news and also other variable programs for you. Hope to see you next time. Thank you.